Yeah. Okay.
All right, we're recording.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle from the Two Comma Coffee Club.
I'm Lene.
Hey, I'm Valerie. Hi.
And today we've all got our coffees or drinks, and we are going to be talking about batshit crazy. I love this topic. I love all the topics, but this is a very fun one for me.
Oh yeah, it's a great one.
Well, batshit crazy. You know, a lot of the stuff that we accepted as great, like up to a very short time ago, we now can see is BSC stuff because it wasn't serving us. And you know, it's why people keep going back and back and back and back to all of these things. Now, it's not to say, you know, that the people who are purveying this are, you know, bad, they're wrong, or dumb. They have a profound belief in these things, and that's where they're choosing that. We encountered something else that showed us that we're more than that, and that we have more. We don't need to put our power into these outside things to get us results, and think that because of a candle that we burn or a picture on an altar that something is going to happen, even though those are sacred to a lot of people. But it's really, and I have had many experiences in the past with pictures and in the presence of what are called mortis, which is really a image of a saintly being or someone who was a living saint at one time, which are pretty amazing. But then where did that come from? And you now see, well, that was an imaginal experience. So I've learned a lot. You know, it really shifts everything to begin to see where that's all really coming from, and the dynamic really changes. So a lot of the things that people have been putting their efforts and their energies into hoping to get a result, they don't realize that's all happening because of what they're imagining, and that in the long term, that's why they're not getting what they really want.
Honestly, you can kind of see where people are in their journey, like say just a spiritual journey of discovering who they are, and based on that. So for instance, someone who is interested in saying affirmations and, you know, maybe lighting a candle on 11/11, that was me. 11/11, like November.
Yeah.
But you
at 11 minutes after 11.
Do what?
At 11 minutes after 11.
Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
At least where they're at, they recognize there's something, right? You're no longer asleep, you know, where, and we've all met the people who watch the media or watch the news, and that is 100% truth to them, and they just live their life reacting to things. Whereas when you kind of go into the batshit crazy stuff, at least you're awakening to something, right? Yeah. So it is, to me, when I look back at the stupid shit I was doing, I say stupid shit now, but I was very like, no, this is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. And it just kept building until it was like, holy crap, it's been me the whole time, right? So it's kind of like miraculous. You're like, wow. And then you look back and you're like, what an amazing journey, you know? I don't know. That's just kind of my
you're right. It all kind of falls into place, because when you're going through that, you really do believe in that, whatever that something is. If we're talking a spiritual journey, I used to collect crystals. I used to believe that amethyst was for calmness and protection. I used to believe that rose quartz was a big cuddle. I used to believe in, if that certain tarot card comes up, you're in shit. The Tower card was the oh shit card. And honestly, you used to, now it wasn't that I was wrong in any of the readings that I gave or in any of the crystals, because if you're having the imaginal experience, you know that it's coming from you. So it all comes from the truth, but it's not coming from that item, because as we said last week in our last YouTube, it doesn't mean anything unless we give it meaning. So we give it that power. Not something only ever has power if we believe that it does, and if we imply that that's what it is, that's what it does. But until you can actually step back, and I've realized that when you look back and thought, God, I was a really good tarot reader, it's also really egotistical, because when you're now learning from the sense of Neville, it's actually about imagining lovingly for everybody, no matter what. And so it levels out the playing field, and it's like you so know your own truth, but it's only because you're detached from everything, because it doesn't mean anything.
That's right. Your detachment, and you begin to see it's not these externals. That's really what it comes down to. It's not the externals. And it's when you shift, everything else around you shifts. And that's really what you start to notice. And so you might say, well, why is it that so many people who are on the spiritual path, they begin to, gravitate toward the crystals and and so many of these things, is partly because these things come from nature. A lot of these things came out of nature, or from cultures that lived in as much harmony with nature as they could, and pretty much anything that comes from Tibet. So that's almost like the extra stamp of deliciousness on some of these things. But it's also because we start looking at this culture lives in harmony. They eat a diet that's a certain way to help them feel harmonious and nonviolent and all those, not stimulated. And, so people on the path start gravitating to a lot of these outside things, or, learning about, like you say, all the qualities of certain crystals. And I think, yes, you can get a sense of having like a beautiful quartz, the warm and fuzzy rose quartz in your life, or having a big chunk of amethyst, and they do look powerful and they do feel wonderful. But where is that coming from? Is it because we imaginally connect with them on some level of energy that we feel something from it, or is it coming from us and we're adding to it, or we know it has some kind of capacity to help people feel more balanced? But in the end, it's really that we think, we end up spending a lot of money on some of these things, wear this necklace and it's going to help you be a better student, and help all your chakras. And there's one where they make the stones in a certain shape, and it's supposed to have better, radiating of the energy. But at the same time, if you go around always feeling that, you're always still having to rely on that. If something in your life isn't going the way you want, you have to keep going back. Oh, now I got to hold this crystal. Now I got to wear this necklace. Now I got to do this there, light this particular candle. So it's always something that you're having to use where your senses are going out toward the thing to try to get relief. But that's really not where the relief actually is. You have to create, that comes from being imaginally connected, and that's really where it is.
That's right. See, I used to have a tiger's eye crystal. Now, it was my favorite crystal, and if I didn't have it on me, something bad would happen. And I lost it this particular day. So many things went wrong that day. A friend's cat died. And somebody, a relative of mine, broke their arm on the trampoline. Like, all of these things happened, and I thought, oh my God, it's because I couldn't find my tiger's eye. But actually, it comes from the imaginal experience that I was creating because I imagined how terribly wrong everything was going to be that day because I didn't have my crystal. It started from the imaginal experience. I didn't imagine them to break their arm. But I did imagine that everything was going to go really terribly wrong that day because I didn't have my tiger's eye crystal. And now when I look back, I think, my God, how ridiculous was that? And even now, I go a bit batshit crazy over certain stuff, and I have to go, whoa, and I can stop myself and be aware of it. So it's not like these batshit crazies aren't still part of life. It's just whether or not you want to give your power to it, or whether you want to be the operant power yourself.
Yeah, that makes absolutely it. Yeah.
And and I talked about the cult I was in, right? And so it was twin flames. And if you have not, and I say this, if you have never experienced twin flames, it is not like soulmates, and you can ask people in that community, right? So it's like the whole mirror thing, like this, your twin flame mirrors you. Well, then we find out everything's a mirror, but you see how they suck you in thinking that it's just one. And it's kind of like, that's how the whole soulmate thing is. There's one person for you, or you can have multiple soulmates and they could be your family. And it's like, which one is it? I keep hearing different versions of things. And it's because we're creating this. We're creating the meanings and the rules on how this works. So you have one community of twin flames who is a cult, which was what I was a part of, who teach that it's a romantic thing, but they're also your mirror. So you have to love yourself, and they'll show you where you're not loving yourself. But then you have other communities of twin flames who talk about the spiritual connection that it is. And then it's like the people fight about which is the truth. Then you have, Neville Goddard, who's saying, you're creating all this. You're imagining all this, you're creating the meanings, you're creating the rules. And then you're like, oh, fuck. This was all me. I was imagining this and this and this and this and this and this. And I find it very interesting now, like looking back at it, because that was just another instance of me, just how powerful that is, that I created all these different versions of things operating together or, not together, against each other. And that was kind of like my other batshit crazy experience, kind of to build on that whole cult thing I was talking about before. But thankfully, here I am, past all
thankfully that. Yeah. Well, twin flames, I mean, soulmates is one thing, and it was never originally used in a romantic context. Spiritually, it was not that in the slightest. And if you look at, in fact, who's written very intelligently or as much as possible about that is Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Of Eat, Pray, Love. And she later wrote about soulmates. And she says, no, it's not really romantic. It's a person who comes along kind of kicks you in the butt and gets you to straighten up a little bit. And that does not mean that they're necessarily the opposite gender or a romantic same gender. It just means that they're somebody you encounter who may have some information for you. But then that's because imaginally, that's how that came about. But twin flames are considered to be kind of ornery characters. They can be kind of slippery, and sometimes this is what's traditionally said about twin flames, and I know somebody who feels that one of her lovers was her twin flame. Maybe it's just that she felt a deep connection to that person, but she wanted to label it twin flame, and that's what it became. But you know, so if you go with all those things, then you're trying to follow all those sets of rules, and you get bound by all those sets of rules, when really it's all coming from what it's really about you, and it's really about what you're. So why go with all these kind of parameters that are out there that don't really mean anything, but they just get kind of pushed down on people, you know, and people go on struggling all the time to try to find out what that all means.
That's right.
And I think the most important thing, especially if somebody watching is believes they're a twin flame or whatever, and I'm only bringing that up because it's like the biggest batshit crazy thing I've ever encountered. But
Yeah,
it's like, that's okay. Just like every other thing you're doing is okay, right? There's no right or wrong. You're the one creating meanings, and my rules don't match your rules, and that's fine. But the biggest part of that is to understand, or come to the understanding that you are the power there creating that, and the rules that come with that. And as long as you acknowledge that, then that's fine. It's just when you rely on, say, a teacher, like in my instance, it was this Master Christ, who is the ultimate twin flame. What? Don't even get me started. It is fucking stupid. But anyways, I mean, I didn't fall for it in that sense. I started going, what the hell is this? And then I left, you know, I was like,
yeah.
oh, bye-bye.
Yeah.
But when you rely so much on someone to teach you the ways, you know, of that, once again, you're creating that too. And I therefore created that. And it's like, you have to understand that it's you, or there's no point.
I
Because
am.
you're, once again, reacting to life. You're reacting to all the bullshit. And so, so it's, you know, it's not good or bad, but as long as you're learning from that, it is coming from you. The end.
And when you realize that, it can either imprison you or it can set you free. That's what the difference is. And since I've been learning about Neville, I've realized how freeing everything is, because there are some batshit crazy people out there that actually believe Neville Goddard is a cult. And actually, when you really delve in and you understand what the teachings are, and I'm sure that there are people before Neville that taught this, because otherwise how did he learn? This goes back eons. It's not just from Neville. Is that it's not so batshit crazy when all it teaches you is that you are the power. You're the power behind everything that you do. Absolutely everything. And you can choose to participate or not participate in certain things anymore, so long as, like you said, Lene and Valerie, in different ways, that so long as you are aware that you are the one giving the power, you can step back. I mean, I probably still do batshit crazy stuff. My family or friends, if they understood, they don't understand certain things, and so they might think I'm batshit crazy or Shell's off on a jolly again. But actually, this is the best experience. I am living the best experience of my life now. I'm out of the batshit crazy. I still have the most wonderful and beautiful friends that do qualified in Reiki, as am I still. I was qualified in some Rahani angel healing thing. I'm a qualified tarot reader in loads of other holistic therapies. I've been through done platform mediumship, everything. But actually, all of it, when you see it's about perspective. And the truth is that I know where it come from, and it's all from me. Just me.
Just little old you. But that's the beauty. That's the thing, is people also, it's kind of, you know, being afraid of your own power. And that is a very common thing. You know, somebody could be very, what we think of as psychic, they can be afraid to use it because it's very powerful. They can be afraid of being intuitive. They can be afraid of really their own power as God. I know somebody kind of like that now. You know, and it's just, they don't want that. And so you know, they can be more, they're kind of easily led, you know, so it's like they want to believe in these other things, and for whatever reason. So it can be very scary because it's so ingrained in us that there's this thing, this God that's outside of us, or it takes some priest figure or cult figure or someone charismatic outside of us, a guru figure who's got the goods that we haven't got. You know, they've got something that we can't get. So, you know, so there's a belief that we don't quite measure up, you know.
That's what I was meaning by the ego. We either underwork it or it's overworked.
Right. That's right. So the ego, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of ego, because ego, you know, I had learned early on when I was first studying the Hindu philosophy that kind of goes, you know, I'm, you know, that does not believe you're powerful or strong. It's a kind of reverse kind of concept of ego, you know, whereas proper ego would be identifying as God. So that's actually considered more proper, you know, what's called proper ego. So, you know, then if you try to use that, you know, or create stature like 2020 talks about, you know, then somebody else might think of that as being very egotistical.
Yeah.
But you have to start, because we're conditioned to believing that, you know, and a lot of the concepts that we live under go back millennia. They go back to other cultures. And they still have their, you know, they still come down to us in different forms, which is why. So that people are always a little bit still under the same kind of lid of some of these things that were used a long time ago to keep certain people from uprising or whatever. It's a great way to keep people down, was to kind of convince them that, you know, there was a demonic or angry God that they could, you know, they had to obey or live in fear of, you know. So, which is why you sometimes see people saying, like in their dating profile, God fearing, you know. It's like, whoa, what does that really mean? You know? So you have to take, you know, you start taking a look at all that, and where does that come, that fire and brimstone, you know, that whole thing kind of coming from. So it's you know, kind of been pounded into people for a very long time.
You know, and I having a newborn baby, I've realized that where that kind of comes from, because I think of him, how reliant he is on me, you know, and he sees me as mom, the one in charge, the authority, the one who feeds me, the one who gives me all of my needs.
Oh yeah.
And meeting all those needs. He views me as that. So think of us being born onto earth, and then our first thing to do is to reach outside of ourselves for our needs. And then it just compounds from there. Until you realize, you know, I'm 31 now. So I'd say for the last 2 years is when I recognized it was me all along, you know, 30 something years of
You've been going elsewhere. Yeah. For your needs to be
and then
met.
imagine well, fuck, it's been inside me the whole time. Mind blown.
That's right. You know, so it is very earth shattering, and sometimes like, oh my gosh, you know. And I mean, Neville had experiences that was in the book, in the one about the end, where he wakes up in the hotel and he's like, oh my God, his lid's coming off, you know. but people do have spontaneous experiences like that, and you know, and then you spend the rest of your time trying to sort out what happened. Which is the other thing.
And that's why I was saying in the beginning that, you know, what we now realize is just crazy stuff that we were doing, because it was still stuff outside of us. it's at least set on the path to that mind-blowing moment of, oh my God, this has been me the whole time. You know,
Yeah.
it took a twin flame experience for me to get here, for me to recognize that, right? So and like in that same sense, it took, you know, I think of what's his face, Jim Carrey, who, you know, it was like the switch flipped on him. Eckhart Tolle, he had like a near-death experience and he was homeless and all this other stuff that kind of woke his ass up.
Suicidal. And
Yeah.
he woke up the next morning gone. That was all.
Yes. And so like everybody has like this weird different path to discovering like, oh,
who you really
shit,
are.
it's been me.
Yeah.
I still have those moments too. Like, it's funny.
Same.
It's like spurts of, oh, fuck, that too. That's me too.
So to wrap up today, for next week, for the people that are watching, it would just be like last week we asked them to just be aware that it doesn't mean anything, that we're giving meaning to everything. This week we just want them to realize where they're giving their power away and what's batshit crazy in their lives, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Who, where, what, and who are you giving your power away to? And, you know, can you catch yourself doing it? And that's to start noticing, you know, without judging, without, you know, trying to say, well, it was this, but maybe not that, but just, you know, look at it and see where those points are. And how do you feel? I think that's another thing, is when you give your power away to something, how do you feel? How do you feel mentally? How do you feel physically? How do you feel emotionally? And notice those things, you know,
Yeah,
where does it shift for you?
Notice that you don't have to believe in that. Because a lot of the time I think, oh no, I can't do that. Well, I can, because I'm giving you power. I can do what I want to do. It morally. But
Yeah, and if it's part of your play with life of just having fun, yeah, by all means, you know. But just, I guess, the understanding that where the power actually is, you know. And I'd love to hear people share stories on
same.
coming to that conclusion.
Absolutely. Great to hear
our email for if anybody wants to contact us is 2coffeeclub@gmail.com. We're now on Instagram as 2 Coffee Club, and they can follow us on Facebook, 2 Coffee Club.
Yay.
All right, ladies. Same time next week.
Yes. See you then.
See you later.
Bye. Later. Bye.